Hello, I am Joshua P. Warren, and I want to do something kind of unusual in this video, and that's tell you about a toy that I found at a hobby shop because I think it might relate to some paranormal phenomena. I was at a store and I saw this little kit called the Ultra Capacitor Car, and I think this could demonstrate one of the possible explanations for certain ghost lights around the world, like especially the Brown Mountain lights in Western North Carolina. This right now is the month of November, very popular time to go and look for the Brown Mountain lights. And one of the possible explanations for Brown Mountain and its phenomena is that the mountain kind of acts like a big capacitor. And a capacitor is something that is specially constructed, designed, laid out in order to store up small charges over time to a certain critical point and then discharge them. Now that's different than a battery, because a battery just produces a constant flow of electrons, but a capacitor, again, it just stores it up and then it discharges it. So let me give you an example. Here is the very simplest form of capacitor I think you could make. This is just a standard plastic drinking cup, and I put some aluminum foil on the outside of it and then filled it on the inside with tap water. This is not salt water, just normal tap water. So what I produced here is two conductors, metal and water, that are separated by a non-conductor, which is the plastic. And that's all a capacitor really is. Two conductors separated by a non-conductor. The only reason that I have these aluminum foil posts sticking up is just so we can access either one of those layers, either the outside layer with the aluminum foil or the inside layer with the water. But again, all we're talking about is two conductors separated by a piece of plastic. Now you can charge this up with many different tools, but I just so happen to have this Van de Graaff electrostatic generator that makes it really easy for me. So I'm going to turn this generator on for a few seconds and just charge up one of those layers. In this case, I happen to be closest to the layer that's connected to the water. So right now we're charging up that water inside this cup. And now that it's charged up for a while, I'm going to turn off the generator, slide it away, but what you're going to find is that that charge is still stored inside the cup, inside the layers of this capacitor. So watch what happens when I take a piece of metal and I just connect those two layers. Check this out. It's like a little lightning bolt. Boom, it discharges. And once it's discharged, now there's nothing else inside of it. All the energy is gone. Now, I could repeat this process, but this gives you the idea. You charge it up and then it's gone. So a lot of people think that if you have something like a capacitor, it does this and only this. Like you charge up something and then you get your discharge just like a lightning bolt from cloud to ground or cloud to cloud, and that's it. And it's like an instantaneous thing. But it doesn't have to work that way. It's possible that a capacitor can gradually discharge under certain conditions so that you don't just get a big flash, big bang, but you get something that might last for a few seconds. Like look, for example, here's a video clip of an experiment that I did where I took a capacitor, I charged it up, and then just took a metal ball and let the ball dangle between the terminals. And look, instead of it just discharging all at once, the metal ball is moving around and slowly, gradually discharging that energy. This is proof of how a capacitor can be discharged for a period of time and produce a different type of phenomenon than just a big bang. That brings us to the new toy. So again, this is a kit called the Ultra Capacitor Car. And now an ultra capacitor is just a highly effective, highly efficient capacitor. Frankly, I don't know if technically you can call the capacitor in this car an ultra capacitor. It just, to me, looks kind of like a capacitor. But here's the little car. I have it here on my floor, And again, this is just a little kit, and this is the capacitor. And so it's got a couple little leads sticking out from it. This is basically exactly the same as the plastic cup I showed you with the water and the aluminum foil. This is just a miniature version of that. So in this case, however, it's hooked to a motor, and instead of using the Van de Graaff, I'm going to take a battery. This is just a AA battery. And watch what happens when I just put the leads from this battery to this capacitor and charge it up for a few seconds. So you can see how that this is another example of a capacitor not just discharging in an instant, but discharging gradually and even producing some kind of thrust. So you can understand why that right now engineers are really interested in using this, this aspect of capacitors in order to try to power not only cars, but even spacecraft and who knows what else, using not batteries, but capacitors. And so there may be something very technological that we can learn from watching these paranormal hotspots like Brown Mountain and how it produces the energy that might create these kinds of lights. Because if we can understand how a natural capacitor works to sort of measure the flow of its discharge and then apply that to modern technology, it might be much more efficient. So this is just another thing to keep in mind as we try to understand what the power supply is behind paranormal hotspots and how it all works. And as you can see, it's got very practical possible applications. So I hope you'll stay tuned to my work and new examples, new demonstrations, new experiments by going to joshuapwarren.com. There's no period after the P at joshuapwarren.com.